The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I walked into McKinley & Associates' conference room that Tuesday morning, clutching my presentation folder like a lifeline. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it echoing off the glass walls of downtown Chicago's most prestigious consulting firm. I had spent 3 months perfecting this idea, a revolutionary customer retention algorithm that could save companies millions. My name is Rebecca Martinez, and I was 28 years old, working as a junior data analyst 30 floors above Michigan Avenue. The November wind rattled the windows as I took my seat at the mahogany conference table, surrounded by 12 senior executives in their expensive suits. "All right, Martinez," barked my boss, Gerald Blackwood, a man whose permanent scowl seemed etched into his weathered face. "You've been pestering me about this presentation for weeks. Let's see what earth-shattering revelation you think you've discovered." The sarcasm in his voice made my stomach twist, but I stood up anyway. I had worked at McKinley for 3 years, watching less qualified colleagues get promoted while I remained stuck in the same position. This was my chance to prove myself. "Thank you, Mr. Blackwood," I began, my voice steadier than I felt. "What I'm about to show you could revolutionize how we approach customer retention for our Fortune 500 clients." I clicked to my first slide, showing the algorithm's predictive model. By analyzing micro-behavioral patterns in customer data, things like response time to emails, frequency of complaints, and purchasing intervals, we can predict with 93% accuracy which customers are likely to leave within the next 6 months. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. I continued, explaining how the algorithm could segment at-risk customers and trigger personalized retention campaigns automatically. My voice grew more confident as I detailed the potential cost savings. "The pilot program I ran with our smaller clients showed incredible results," I said, clicking to a graph showing dramatic improvement. Jameson Electronics saw their customer retention increase by 38% in just 2 months. I looked around the room, expecting impressed faces. Instead, I found blank stares and people checking their phones, but nothing prepared me for what came next. Gerald Blackwood leaned back in his leather chair and let out a condescending laugh that cut through the silence like a knife. Well, he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Little Rebecca thinks she's reinvented the wheel." The blood drained from my face as he continued. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves a regular Steve Jobs here," he announced, gesturing at me dismissively. "Martinez seems to think that basic data analysis is some kind of groundbreaking innovation." Several executives chuckled, and I felt my cheeks burn with humiliation. "Mr. Blackwood, with respect, the results speak for themselves." "The results?" he interrupted, standing up and walking around the table. "You ran a tiny pilot with one of our smallest clients, and now you think you've discovered the holy grail of customer retention." He stopped directly in front of me, his cold gray eyes boring into mine. "Let me tell you something, Martinez. Real innovation requires years of experience and strategic thinking, qualities that junior analysts simply don't possess. What you've presented here is elementary statistical analysis dressed up with fancy charts." The room felt like it was spinning. 3 months of work, countless late nights, weekend research, all dismissed in front of my colleagues. I could see some of them avoiding eye contact, embarrassed for me. "Furthermore," Blackwood continued, clearly enjoying the moment, "your presentation shows a fundamental misunderstanding of our client relationships. We don't just throw algorithms at problems and hope for the best." He returned to his seat with a satisfied smirk. "I suggest you focus on the data entry tasks you're actually qualified for, Martinez. Leave the big ideas to those of us who understand this business." The meeting ended with polite applause for Blackwood's constructive feedback. As everyone filed out, I remained frozen in my chair, staring at my presentation materials scattered across the table. That night, I sat in my small Lincoln Park apartment, looking out at the city lights through my rain-streaked window. The humiliation hadn't just stung, it had awakened something. As I replayed Blackwood's mocking words, the shame began transforming into something else entirely. Determination. I opened my laptop and began researching McKinley's biggest competitors. 3 weeks had passed since the presentation disaster, and the sting of Gerald Blackwood's humiliation hadn't faded. Every morning, I walked into McKinley knowing my colleagues had witnessed my professional devastation. Some offered sympathetic smiles, others pretended it never happened. but Blackwood seemed to take particular pleasure in assigning me the most mundane tasks possible. "Martinez," he called out that frigid December morning, his voice carrying across the open workspace. "I need you to update the client contact database. 3,700 entries need verification." I bit my tongue and nodded, accepting the stack of papers. It was busy work, the kind typically assigned to interns, not someone with a Northwestern master's degree. But I had bigger concerns occupying my mind. For 3 weeks, I had been conducting research during lunch breaks and after work. I discovered that Meridian Strategic Solutions, McKinley's biggest rival, had been aggressively expanding their analytics department. They had poached 3 senior consultants from other firms recently and were specifically looking for innovative approaches to customer retention. The idea growing in my mind felt both terrifying and exhilarating. What if I could prove Blackwood wrong? What if my algorithm wasn't just valuable, but valuable enough for a competitor to want it? During my lunch break, I sat in the small cafe across from our building, watching December snowfall on LaSalle Street. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I had memorized but never thought I'd actually call. "Meridian Strategic Solutions, Jennifer Walsh speaking." "Ms. Walsh, my name is Rebecca Martinez. I saw your job posting for a senior analytics consultant, but I'm calling about something potentially more interesting." There was a pause. "I'm listening." "I've developed a predictive customer retention algorithm that achieves 93% accuracy in identifying at-risk customers. I have documented results showing 38% improvement in retention rates." That's quite a claim, Ms. Martinez. Can you send me some preliminary information?" My heart was racing. "I can do better than that. I can demonstrate it live. But I should mention, I currently work at McKinley & Associates." Another pause, longer this time. "I see. That's certainly complicated. But if your claims are accurate, we'd be very interested in discussing this further. Could you come in Friday afternoon? Off the books, of course. I'll be there." The rest of that week crawled by like torture. I continued my mundane tasks at McKinley while secretly preparing for the most important meeting of my career. I refined my presentation, gathered additional supporting data, and most importantly, documented everything I had created on my own time using personal equipment. Friday afternoon arrived with fresh snowfall that blanketed Chicago in pristine white. I called in sick to McKinley, claiming a stomach bug. Meridian's offices were located in a gleaming tower on Wacker Drive, just 12 blocks from McKinley, but worlds apart in atmosphere. Jennifer Walsh turned out to be a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, with graying auburn hair and an immediate no-nonsense presence. She led me to a conference room where 2 other executives were waiting: David Kim, head of analytics, and Maria Santos, a senior partner. "Ms. Martinez," Jennifer began, "I hope you understand the delicate nature of this meeting. We're not in the business of poaching employees or engaging in corporate espionage." "I understand completely," I replied, setting up my laptop. "What I'm about to show you was developed entirely on my own time, using my personal equipment and publicly available research. For the next 45 minutes, I presented my algorithm with confidence I had never felt at McKinley. These executives asked intelligent questions, challenged my methodology in productive ways, and most importantly, they listened. Really listened. "The applications are extraordinary," David Kim said, studying the predictive model. "This could be game-changing for our retail and technology clients." Maria Santos leaned forward. "What kind of timeline are we looking at for implementation? If I had proper resources and a dedicated team, I could have this ready for beta testing within 6 weeks." The 3 executives exchanged glances. Jennifer Walsh spoke first. "Ms. Martinez, we'd like to make you an offer. Senior analytics consultant position, 40% salary increase, signing bonus, and most importantly, full backing to develop and implement your algorithm as our flagship retention solution." I felt like I might faint. That's an incredible offer. "There's one more thing," Maria Santos added with a slight smile. "We'd want to fast-track implementation. Our biggest prospective client, Hartwell Industries, has been hemorrhaging customers for months. They're desperately looking for solutions, and they happen to be McKinley's largest account." The irony was perfect. Hartwell Industries, The client that generated nearly 30% of McKinley's annual revenue would become the proving ground for the algorithm that Gerald Blackwood had dismissed as elementary statistical analysis. As I walked back through the snowy streets of downtown Chicago, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months: genuine excitement about my future. The humiliation of 3 weeks ago was transforming into the catalyst for the biggest professional opportunity of my life. But first, I had to give my notice at McKinley & Associates. Monday morning arrived with the kind of bitter Chicago wind that cuts through even the heaviest coat. I stood outside the McKinley building, watching my former colleagues hurry through the revolving doors. In just a few minutes, I would walk into Gerald Blackwood's office and resign. But first, I had one more call to make. "Jennifer, it's Rebecca Martinez. I accept your offer." "Excellent." Jennifer Walsh's voice was warm with satisfaction. "We'll have the contracts ready this afternoon. Are you planning to give notice today?" "In about 10 minutes." I walked into the building that had been my professional prison for 3 years. The elevator ride to the 32nd floor felt different this time. Instead of dread, I felt electric anticipation. Patricia Chen looked surprised when I knocked on her office door at 8:30 a.m. "Rebecca, you're here early. I need to submit my formal resignation." Her eyebrows shot up. "Resignation? Rebecca, what's this about? Is this because of the presentation last month?" I handed her the letter I had crafted over the weekend. "I've accepted a position with another firm. My last day will be December 20th. Patricia scanned the letter, her expression growing concerned. "This is very sudden. Have you spoken with Gerald about this?" "Not yet. That's my next stop." I walked down the hallway toward Blackwood's corner office, my heart pounding but my resolve absolute. His secretary gestured for me to wait while she announced my arrival. "Send her in," came Blackwood's gruff voice. Gerald Blackwood was seated behind his massive desk, reviewing quarterly reports. He didn't look up when I entered. "Martinez, I hope you're feeling better. I have a new project for you. Client satisfaction surveys need to be compiled and sorted. Actually, Mr. Blackwood, I'm here to give my notice." That got his attention. He looked up with mild annoyance. "Your notice? What are you talking about?" I placed my resignation letter on his desk. "I'm leaving McKinley & Associates. My last day is December 20th. He picked up the letter and read it quickly, his frown deepening. "This is ridiculous, Martinez. You can't just quit because your feelings got hurt during one presentation. This isn't about hurt feelings, Mr. Blackwood. I've accepted a senior position with another consulting firm." "Senior position?" He laughed, the same condescending sound that had humiliated me a month earlier. "What firm would be foolish enough to give you a senior role? Meridian Strategic Solutions has offered me a senior analytics consultant position." The color drained from Blackwood's face. "Meridian? You're going to our direct competitor?" "Yes." "This is outrageous." He stood up, his chair rolling backward. "You signed a non-compete agreement when you started here, Martinez. The non-compete only applies to soliciting McKinley clients or using proprietary McKinley information. I've done neither." Blackwood's jaw tightened. "What exactly are you planning to do at Meridian?" "I'll be developing and implementing advanced analytics solutions for their clients." "Advanced analytics?" His voice rose. "You mean that pathetic algorithm you embarrassed yourself with last month? The one I explained was elementary statistical analysis?" This was the moment I had been waiting for. "Actually, Mr. Blackwood, Meridian was quite impressed with that pathetic algorithm. Impressed enough to offer me a 40% salary increase and full resources to implement it." The silence in the office was deafening. Blackwood's face cycled through several shades of red as the implications hit him. "You showed our proprietary work to a competitor?" "I showed them my personal work, developed on my own time, using my own equipment. Everything was properly documented and legally reviewed. This is corporate espionage. This is an employee taking her talents elsewhere, after being publicly humiliated and professionally undervalued." Blackwood sank back into his chair, his arrogance finally cracking. "Martinez, let's be reasonable here. Perhaps I was too harsh in my feedback last month. We could discuss adjusting your role, maybe a promotion." The time for reasonable discussion was a month ago, when I presented a solution that could have helped our clients significantly. Instead, you chose to mock me in front of 12 colleagues. "What do you want, Martinez? More money? A better title? Name your price." For just a moment, I felt satisfaction at seeing Gerald Blackwood scrambling to keep me. but it was too late. I want to work somewhere that values innovation over intimidation. I want colleagues who challenge ideas constructively rather than destroying them publicly. I stood up to leave, then paused at his door. Oh, and Mr. Blackwood? That elementary statistical analysis you dismissed? Meridian is fast-tracking it as their flagship retention solution. Their first client will be Hartwell Industries. The look of horror that crossed his face was worth every moment of humiliation I had endured. You can't do this, Martinez. Hartwell is our biggest client. Was your biggest client, I corrected. They're about to become Meridian's success story. I walked out of Gerald Blackwood's office and through the McKinley corridors for the last time. At the elevator, Patricia Chen caught up with me. Rebecca, are you sure about this? Gerald can be difficult, but McKinley has been your home for 3 years. I pressed the down button and turned to face her. Patricia, sometimes home becomes a prison, and the only way to grow is to leave. The elevator doors opened, and I stepped inside. As they closed, I caught a glimpse of Gerald Blackwood, standing in his office doorway, phone pressed to his ear. But it was too late. The girl who had walked into that conference room a month ago was gone. In her place stood a woman who knew her worth and wasn't afraid to demand it. 6 months later, I stood in Meridian Strategic Solutions' 20th floor conference room, looking out at the Chicago skyline as the late June sun cast golden light across the city. In my hand was a printed report that would change everything. Hartwell Industries Customer Retention Initiative. Final results. The numbers were even better than I had projected. Hartwell's customer retention had improved by 47% in just 4 months. Their customer satisfaction scores had increased by 32%. Most importantly, the algorithm had helped them save over $12 million in potential lost revenue. Rebecca, they're ready for you, Jennifer Walsh said. The entire Hartwell executive team is on the video call, plus their board of directors. I walked into Meridian's main presentation room where a massive screen displayed 16 faces. The leadership team of one of America's largest manufacturing companies. At the center was CEO Robert Hartwell himself. Ladies and gentlemen, I began. 6 months ago, Hartwell Industries was losing customers at an unprecedented rate. Today, I'm pleased to present the results of our retention initiative. I clicked to my first slide, showing the dramatic improvement in retention rates. The predictive algorithm we implemented has not only stopped the customer hemorrhaging, but has actually reversed the trend. You're now retaining customers at a rate 47% higher than your historical average. Robert Hartwell leaned forward on the screen. Ms. Martinez, these results are extraordinary. In my 30 years running this company, I've never seen such a rapid turnaround in customer relationships. The algorithm identifies at-risk customers with 94% accuracy, I continued, allowing your team to intervene with personalized retention strategies before customers make the decision to leave. As I concluded the presentation, Robert Hartwell made an announcement that sent a thrill through the room. Ms. Martinez, the Hartwell board has voted unanimously to expand this initiative to all our subsidiary companies. We're talking about a 3-year, $40 million partnership with Meridian. After the call ended, Jennifer Walsh turned to me with a grin. Rebecca, do you realize what just happened? This is the largest analytics contract in Meridian's history. But the real satisfaction came an hour later, when my phone buzzed with a text from my friend Amy. Turn on Channel 7 Business News. Now. I found a television in the break room and switched to the local business station. The anchor was discussing major corporate news, and then I heard words that made my heart race. In a surprising development, McKinley & Associates has lost their largest client. Hartwell Industries announced today they're terminating their relationship with the consulting firm after 15 years, citing failure to provide innovative solutions to critical business challenges. The loss represents approximately 30% of McKinley's annual revenue. The report continued. Hartwell has signed with competitor Meridian Strategic Solutions, praising their revolutionary approach to customer analytics. I sat in stunned silence as the implications hit me. Gerald Blackwood's dismissal of my algorithm hadn't just cost him an employee. It had cost his company their biggest client and 30% of their revenue. My phone rang. The caller ID showed unknown. Rebecca Martinez. Ms. Martinez, this is Thomas McKinley, senior partner at McKinley & Associates. My breath caught. Thomas McKinley was the founder's son and managing partner, Gerald Blackwood's boss. I'm calling to personally apologize for how you were treated at our firm. I've reviewed the situation with your algorithm presentation, and I want you to know that Gerald Blackwood no longer represents McKinley's approach to innovation. I remained silent, letting him continue. I'd like to offer you a position as Director of Analytics Innovation, reporting directly to me, full autonomy over your projects and significant salary increase. The irony was perfect. 6 months ago, I had been humiliated in front of colleagues. Now the managing partner was personally trying to recruit me back. Mr. McKinley, I appreciate the call and the offer, but I'm very happy at Meridian. I understand, but perhaps we could discuss consulting arrangements. Your algorithm has clearly proven its value. That's interesting. I'll have Jennifer Walsh contact you about potential partnerships. And Ms. Martinez. Gerald Blackwood is no longer with the firm. 2 weeks later, I was delivering the keynote speech at the Chicago Analytics Innovation Conference to an audience of over 800 industry professionals. As I looked out at the crowd, I spotted a familiar face in the back row. Gerald Blackwood sat alone, no longer wearing expensive suits. He looked older, defeated. Our eyes met briefly, and I saw recognition, and perhaps regret, flash across his face. But I felt no anger, no need for further revenge. Success, I had learned, was the best response to those who doubt you. The most important lesson I've learned, I told the audience, concluding my speech, is that innovation requires courage. The courage to present your ideas, the courage to defend them, and when necessary, the courage to take them elsewhere. The applause was thunderous. As I left the stage, Jennifer Walsh was waiting with a smile. 3 more Fortune 500 companies want to implement your algorithm, she said. We're going to need to hire a bigger team. I looked back at the auditorium one last time. Gerald Blackwood was gone, his seat empty. But I wasn't looking back anymore, only forward, toward a future I had created through determination, talent, and the refusal to let anyone define my worth. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply proving them wrong.